How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Still.
Fenarian.
And Volacel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week as it was. But first of all, if you would like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, although the Twitter has decided that they needed to have a UI update. For some reason, these places always do this, and they randomly shovel stuff around the UI, make it more like the mobile app and less accessible for use in general. Or you can join us in our Discord server, most easily accessed by clicking on the link to the Discord server, which should be in the video description when this goes up.
Yes,
I don't think that we have one in there while we're doing the live stream.
No, we don't.
Or alternatively, you can go to vtwproductions.com and click on the logo on any of our recent show posts, which will also take you directly to our Discord server where you can talk to the show hosts and other listeners to the show in real time.
Yes, indeed. So, on the stream today, I'm going to try something that is probably a really bad idea, and just do a bit of grinding in Final Fantasy XIV while we do this. I've already done a bit of this, and I've realized I have no idea how I actually used to play these games as when I was younger. The old hot button MMOs, after being spoiled by games with better control systems.
Yeah.
Also, I have no idea where I'm actually supposed to be, so that doesn't help either.
I still don't have a problem with classic hot button MMOs, even slow ones, because my mind is usually busy doing other things.
Yeah, that might be it. It's just you don't think about it.
Like, believe me, if you're doing mythic level content, or even if it's not mythic level content in World of Warcraft, like anything above story level content in Final Fantasy XIV for that matter, you don't have time to worry about the fact that your rate of pressing buttons is slow because you've got so much other stuff to take care of.
Yeah.
But especially if you're trying to play Dragoon. Well, Monk, I gather, is even worse. Well, although I don't know what it's like these days. I still haven't had a chance to play the new Final Fantasy expansion.
Machinist is what I'm actually playing at the moment. Now, that used to be the worst because you had to keep track of heat, ammunition, procs, and your turret, well, sort of, and something else as well. So it was a mess.
Yes, well,
this isn't the right place either.
I don't actually think that there's an inherent problem with the hot button MMO concept, and I honestly hope that it continues to persist because people like me who just don't have a great deal of technical skill when it comes to playing games can, through the medium of a hot button MMO, play games that actually do require skill.
Yeah. Alright, so I'm just going to try and do a bit of leave quests. Unfortunately, because I'm kind of in that level 40 bracket at the moment, I just got my did the Rook turret quest.
Oh, no wonder it feels slow.
Yeah. As far as just grinding up, like I've done most of the quests in this kind of bracket, but when you hit level 40, it looks like you can only do guild leaves in a level 49 area if you want the level 40 leaves.
Dude, Zamail Darkhold.
Yeah.
5 billion times.
Not doing that.
It's such a bad dungeon, but it's got such good EXP per time spent. It's just
yeah.
It's a match made in hell.
It is. What is
it's one of 44. The worst dungeons not named Aurum Vale, but you pretty much have to go there because anything else is gimping yourself.
Yeah, Aurum Vale is basically, oh, I heard you like Ochus. Darkhold had that ridiculous boss with the doors at the end, didn't it?
No. That was
that one.
It's a different one. I can't remember the name of it. They all got RP fantasy names. I can't remember what they're all called.
Yeah. Castrum Meridianium.
Zamail Darkhold is the one where you basically crawl through some caves and it's got a boss that is basically like your character playing DDR.
That's right. Badly.
And you follow an annoying beholder all over the dungeon.
Yeah. That was it.
It's a really dumb dungeon. The one that ends with the Diablos fight, I think, is awesome. I had no problem getting that on the roulette. That's one of the things that I note about Final Fantasy 14 and the way that it really, for me, differs from World of Warcraft is that eventually I got sick of all the dungeons in World of Warcraft, but I was still thrilled to get some certain dungeons in Final Fantasy 14. They all fell into a camp of I either hated it or looked forward to it.
Yeah. Like, even the low-level dungeons are something of an event. Like, all the... Well, I'd say the old-level WoW dungeons, but they're all redundant anyway, so you only really go through them solo for transmogs anyway. Or money. But,
wow.
It's something I've always held is that Final Fantasy 14 makes boss fights an event, rather than, oh, there's just a giant mob there, go and tank and spank it. Even the tank and spanks in Final Fantasy 14 still feel more dynamic, and at least there's something going on.
Yeah, they start out in a more or less in a more mature place than the ones in World of Warcraft did.
Yeah. Like, you've got Ifrit. There are mechanically identical bosses to it, basic level Ifrit in WoW. There's actually quite a lot of them where it's boss is tank and spank and every now and again goes invulnerable and has the other raid go and kill something to make them not invulnerable anymore. But instead of doing it in just kind of a big, bland room, you're in a ring of fire and everything is on fire. And you have a rocking soundtrack.
Yeah. I don't remember much actually about how the base Ifrit fight goes. I don't remember.
It's pretty much tank and spank, don't stand in the fire, and kill the nails when they pop up.
There's only one nail, right? For the story mode one.
For story mode, yeah, well, it's only one or two.
The high level ones, like I've done Ifrit Extreme, and it is not.
It's not.
It is not fun. So much can go wrong. Like it's not a hard fight. You're still essentially doing the same thing. But number one, you pretty much need a limit break, an AoE DPS limit break, in order to be in the safe zone. You don't need one. But if you don't have one, you're going to be on the edge of your seat, because if you've got a weak link, it's going to be rough.
Yeah.
But he's also you have to read his movements with very little time spared. You've got to put your right foot in and put your right foot out, and there's a lot of moving backwards and forwards. And he's going to charge all over the room, so you've got to be watching your environment, because he's going to appear somewhere, and not just one of him, but like three of him or something.
Yeah.
There's that same fight when brought up to the top end is actually really difficult. Like, it's not really difficult in the realm of tough raid bosses, but it's really difficult relative to what WoW led me to expect the average player was capable of.
Yeah. Like, even the joke fights, like Ultros and whatever that big windy thing is, there are very silly bosses. Very tough fight. It requires pretty much on-point coordination for your raid, so good luck pugging it. Because someone's going to end up getting blown out of the arena. Probably me. But, yeah. So, yeah, we'll see. Like, I know they've made a whole bunch of changes with the new expansion. They've streamlined a lot of the classes. Like, just the Machinist is, at this point, being declared as the third new class of the expansion.
Is there that little left of it?
Yeah. Whoops, what have I done here? Oh, I've got paralysis. That's right, I forgot that's a thing.
So it's already turning out to be a bad idea.
This is probably already turning out to be a bad idea. Thankfully, my rotation is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5 occasionally, or 1, 2, 3, 4 when 4 is on cooldown. Like, I could go in and just try and line up, what is it called? Reassemble, which is essentially your next attack is crit. But you only do that on certain abilities. And at the end of your combo. Your turret is no longer set and forget. You just wait for your battery to gauge to charge up and then drop it. And that's it. And at level 80 it turns into a giant robot who runs up and punches things. Because reasons, I guess. Alright, so I'm probably going to die horribly in here because I'm doing level 40 quests in a level 50 zone, and those level 50 monsters are still kind of just hiding up around the corner there. So I am not going to try and fight them. That's not going to work. Anyway, we'll dive straight into weeks. So as far as my week goes this week, it's been kind of a dull week. I've done some grinding in Final Fantasy XIV, just a little bit here and there to keep my hand in and get back into the swing of this game. Being reminded that I have no idea what I'm doing anymore.
So you're being bullied by small animals?
Being bullied by small animals. Doing the class quests, which I still love, because every class has their own little storyline. And
I see.
I actually saw somebody out doing the summoner class quest yesterday, and I reminded just how much I hate the villain of that quest line. He's a minor...
I've never actually proceeded with summoner, so I don't actually know what the story is about.
You just more or less go out and you're trying to find the summoner stone and learn the arts of the summoner is kind of the base for most of the other classes. But then here comes this other douchebag who's got the summoner outfit, except all in black, and he is the most smug and pompous douche you've ever seen.
I see.
This is not going to end well, because I have hangry orgs everywhere. Yes, hangries. So yeah, managed to grind my way up to level 40 with the Machinist. Just did the class quest to get the Rook turret, which kind of is about from where the story quest for most of the classes really kind of gets into the end game. At least for the initial quest. Like for Summoner, it means you're lining up to confront Captain Douchebag McSummoner. For the Machinist, you're lining up to take on some excessively smug aristocrats and put them in their place because they don't believe that, machinery and gunpowder will replace swords and knighthood.
Well, they introduced the Gunbreaker, so why not both?
Why not both? This is not going to end well. I have actually re-rolled my character to become the Lion Man, which I like to try and be in every MMO. It's not so much that I want to be particularly, Lion Man in particular. It's just I want to be the least human character possible. It's why I'll never roll up humans unless I have an option, no other option, or elves. And it's always
Translate.
elves.
He wants to be the ugliest character possible.
Well, he wants to be a Papori. IRL.
I've tried to be a Papori. I do not. But currently my character, if you look at him here, he kind of looks like he stepped out of a really bad 90s Saturday morning cartoon. And that's how it should be. I'm not sure why I'm human in real life. I don't know why people would want to be a human when they go to a fantasy universe. Humans are boring. Stop being humans.
But you're not a pretty human in real life.
No. I am not Bishonen.
You could be one of those.
No.
So
I refuse.
Speaking of, have you seen any blue mages and gunbreakers and dancers around about?
Not yet. I've seen maybe a dancer or two hanging around in Limsa. Blue mages are kind of weird because they do their own thing outside of the usual balance of the game.
Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly how they're intended to work. They call them limited jobs, but I don't really know what they're for.
Blue mages get a stupid amount of abilities and can put together some absolutely game-breaking combinations. So there's things like I don't think you can actually enter into the duty roulette in the standard way. You can only go into non-standard groups.
Yeah, you can't even do main storyline, I've heard.
No, you can't, because that involves going into the duty roulette as well. So that whole bit.
No, like you can't even do quests.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, well, I guess we wanted to put a boss in here, but you just happen to have some weird enemy ability that trivializes it.
Yeah. So the Blue Mage is completely absurd and completely ridiculous. I haven't played it yet, but I'm going to at some point because it's kind of the class I've always really liked to play in Final Fantasy games, and it's never really there. There's just
they've got their masked carnival thing as well, don't they?
They do. I'm not sure what that's all
Which
about.
is basic. From what I understand, they're basically challenge quests with Chivos.
Mm-hmm.
So and they award things like tombstones, things that people actually want. But you've got like you get presented with a trial that you've got to complete on a timer, and you get rated based on your time, and you get bonuses based on the way you do it, like completing it quickly, using fewer than a certain number of unique spells, taking 0 damage, using only one element, or using a bajillion debuffs, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically you can increase the reward based on the doing things in the different ways, and you have to be able to identify enemies and use the right things that target their weaknesses. That sort of thing is what I understand it is. Like I said, I haven't played, so I don't know.
Yeah. It's not really something I've delved into just yet. There's so much in this game that's actually worth your time to do. It's hard to make time for all of it. I am, however, looking forward to playing the dancer on this character in particular. Because
you're a big lion man.
Big lion man. I mean, if I could dress in blue and gold and shout about being the Prezi King, I totally would. Because hell, I've seen people arguing about gacha results in chat, by the way. But the dancer's moves are all very graceful and controlled and slow, and yeah, it's a very it's just very graceful and tidy animations.
Not really the sort of animations that would be set to the music, the theme music for Tesla, not Tesla, for Edison.
For Edison, no, absolutely not.
But his theme music is so catchy.
It is, actually, it is. Oh, that was the wrong button. Oh well, never mind, it's dead now. I'll just kind of keep chipping away at that. I don't really intend on actually doing anything particularly serious. I just want to kind of catch up to the main storyline and then play through Heavenswood. Because I'm 2 expansions behind at this point. I need to catch up.
I don't know if I don't know what it's like in Japanese, but I've heard that there's a lot of French in the dancers' moves.
I see.
Well, like to execute, it seems to be it's not like the ninja, but it seems like they have particular steps that you can execute.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think, I don't know anything about ballet, but they sound like ballet names.
That would make sense. Like a lot of the ninja and even the samurai stuff, the moves are in Japanese and Chinese. But yeah, I wouldn't be perhaps surprised to see a lot of the dancer stuff in French.
At least it's not American dancing.
Isn't that just drink loads of alcohol, stagger around, fall on the dance floor, and throw up?
The last time I saw somebody doing it, it involved spinning on the top of his head. So.
Oh yeah, but that was a crazy Yakuza. We will get to that in just a moment.
Didn't even realize it set you up for that segue.
I know, right? You're doing it accidentally now. It's great. So let's segue.
This is what it means to be a professional.
So, Yakuza. I continue to pick away at Yakuza 0, and it continues to be completely absurd. I've chipped away at the main storyline enough to get into Majima mode, and Majima is not just balls to the wall insane as he usually is. He's kind of a smarmy insane at this point.
He's a nice, crazy person in a tux with a bow tie, and his hair's done right, and he's not wearing that ugly lion print jacket.
I don't know why he keeps wearing that. It's hideous.
I think it's because it's hideous.
But lions don't have markings.
Leopard print, whatever it is.
It's kind of a snake skinny type thing.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is a very weird jacket.
Ugly
very,
jacket.
It's very Yakuza, though.
It's very much.
Yeah.
Like, dressing loudly is sort of like the Yakuza uniform.
Yeah. So, played with Majima. I love his intro sequence when he first pops up. Is that whole sequence in the hotel where he puts a rowdy customer in his place by doing absolutely nothing but perfect customer service.
Oh yeah, when he totally owns the dude at his cabaret club just by being the best manager possible and making him feel so bad about what he did that the dude offers to buy drinks for the entire club.
Well, there was that, and there was also that little bit of blackmail he slipped in there at the end.
Is this like pre? Is this like the pre popping out of manholes to abuse you, Majima.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the story of how he goes into Crazy Town for his
He
half of
just
the
suddenly
story.
starts jumping out of windows for no reason. Yes.
Yeah, this is not the dude that cosplays as a police officer or as a street hooker to go on a date with.
Yeah. Although you can see elements of it there already in his combat. Because he does make a lot of stupid noises.
He does make a whole lot of funny noises. So you got Slugger style, though.
And I'm loving Slugger style.
They just give you an infinite durability baseball bat to go club people over the head with.
It's like, here's this baseball bat. Go nuts.
Pretty much. The only problem with Slugger style is you cannot use it in enclosed quarters because it'll dink off walls.
Yeah. I've run into that problem a little bit. Oh, hello. What was that?
So it's not the solution to everything, but it's a pretty good solution to most problems.
It solves pretty much everything, unless you're in a really close space.
Yeah.
Got stuck up in the mini games though, so I haven't progressed too much further in the story. Like, you've got the whole item craft mini game, which seems a bit redundant.
You can get really OP stuff from it if you learn to game it, but it takes forever. I don't recommend doing it unless you're going for completion.
Yeah, I do like the characters involved in it, particularly the wife.
Oh yeah,
she's your stereotypical Chinese angry wife, but she's perfectly polite to everyone else except her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's seen a film with that character in it.
Yeah. So, she's an absolute delight to behold, even though she's a really kind of horrible person sometimes.
A whole lot of people are really fun to be around, but really horrible people in the Yakuza games.
Yeah, it seems to be a byline.
Kazuma's about the nicest guy you'll meet in the Yakuza games, and he's still a Yakuza. He still beats down people to take money they owe him for taxes of being in his territory.
Yeah, but doesn't he conspicuously never kill anyone?
Yeah, dude throws people out windows from the 12th story, and they're still fine.
It's actually that sort of event that kicks off the entire story of Yakuza 0.
Yeah, he's accused of murdering a guy he was supposed to go get money from.
Yeah. He will, however, gleefully stomp people's heads while they're laying on concrete and not kill them.
This is like Deus Ex non-lethal takedowns, isn't it?
It is.
It's worse. It's worse.
It is worse.
The dude will grab somebody by his leg and slam him on his nuts over a bike rack.
Ooh, I haven't had that one happen yet.
I felt that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know if it's in 0 where that one happens, but he does that.
Yeah. So, I'm starting to get the hang of the karaoke minigame, but I say that with a huge caveat, and that caveat I think is best epitomized by the song 12-Hour Cinderella.
That one's in a lot of games. It gets remixed for different characters.
So it's not a bad song just to do the karaoke button inputs for and kind of get a good score that way, until about the halfway point.
Is it the music video?
It's the music video where it turns into the most camp and fruity, ridiculous thing going on in the background.
Is that the one with Majima and the Indian headpiece?
No, this is the one with Majima on roller skates.
Okay, that one.
Well, I just don't know how to process any of this information that I'm receiving.
And this is the best way to experience Yakuza. Like, you've got your serious, gritty storyline and very interesting and deep characters. And then there's this whole veneer of just complete lunacy over top of it.
I think it really adds to it because you get to see a whole lot of sides of these characters and these wacky side events in this otherwise totally straight played Yakuza main storyline.
Yeah.
Like the whole main storyline is total serious business, but taking the time out to go hang out and do wacky stuff with these characters and see how just absolute bonkers they are really adds a whole lot of charm and character to all of them.
It's great, and I wish more games would do this sort of thing.
Yeah, Yakuza is branded by its tonal dissonance between the side quests and the main quests.
There's got to be a phrase more powerful than tonal dissonance.
Yakuzaing. Yakuzaisms.
Yakuzaing.
They are pretty much the series that patented the wacky, off-the-wall side quests, totally serious main story shtick.
Yeah. I have to admit though, I did burn way too much time in the Sega arcades playing Fantasy Zone
Mm-hmm.
because nostalgia.
Space Harrier.
Space Harrier. I'm terrible at Space Harrier.
Yeah, I had to beat it for a Chivo.
That's because
That was hard.
They hate you.
Yeah, that was really hard. That took like 3 hours.
So they're great games. I'm really kind of shamed at I haven't gotten into the series before now.
Yeah, I can't think of a single bad thing other than a few wonky quests in like the first game that made it into the Kiwami remake that I really just don't like about the series.
Yeah, there's
Like you can complain about the tedium of stuff like the Cabaret Club or the slot car machines if you really want to.
Yeah,
but the stuff that surrounds all that's just one aspect of it. It's tediousness.
That's bad.
I've meant to get into it for years, but it's just the sheer time commitment required to properly play one of those games is not small.
No, there's a lot of content in these games. I just had a group boss kind of spawn on top of my head.
Oh, as happens.
Yeah, thankfully I managed to get my escort out from under him before he spawned. That would have been.
That's
You were doing an escort at the time?
I hate these escort quests because they don't. The NPC doesn't.
I just avoid them.
Yeah, I do. I probably should, but it's just I grab all the leaves while I'm there and just dump them.
I don't. I would rather make more trips back to the guild leave guy than do an escort quest. So I just avoid them. I will pick which ones I think are efficient to do and just do those ones. Because I cannot stand the stop and wave at the dude and stop and wave at the dude and stop and wave at the dude.
Yep. And then suddenly everything spawns on your face because you move the dude.
That's the sort of escort quest which was escort quest structure which is designed by a person who knows that everybody hates escort quests and is just trying to twist the knife.
I think so.
Please, game devs, stop escort quests. It's a PSA. Just never again.
Yes,
but they want we should suffer.
Then they look at you think people start phasing out escort quests, and then people look at Resident Evil 4. Fantastic game, but it is one giant escort quest.
Well, that's because you can put the escort in a trash can.
Exactly. They seem to miss that bit where you can chuck her in a dumpster for a while.
Like, it just hang out here and let me go play the level, and I'll come back and get you.
Yeah,
you can do that. That's not really an escort quest. That's more like put the story event in the trash can and come get it out when you're done.
Oh, dear.
They know escorts are trash. How trash? They literally let you put it in the trash.
Yep. That's when she's not being kidnapped.
So here's a thing that really highlights the difference between Final Fantasy XIV and other MMOs. They've added a new game plus mode. They added, which is basically the ability to repeat story, except with all of your crap.
Yay!
So you can beat the crap out of it.
Can we go back and redo Hildebrand?
Maybe. I don't see any reason why not. I'd like to do those
quests without the horrendously creepy face. Thank you very much.
Man, I would like to get back in MMOs, but I don't have the type of time commitment where I would like to put towards MMOs. While I could probably aggregate enough time if I really worked at it to play and make progress.
Yeah,
it just wouldn't be the way I want to play an MMO. If I set a goal in an MMO, I don't want to stop working on that goal to go have to do something else.
I can see myself playing Final Fantasy XIV again, even with my limited time, because I feel like there are enough different things that can be pared down to a small chunk that you can still get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that there's a good breadth of different stuff to do. So,
what on earth? Okay, some of the mounts they've got flying around at the moment are just a bit ridiculous. That was somebody flying around on a giant dandelion.
Seems like about right for MMOs.
I mean, they're going to make money somehow.
But they got really cool paid mounts, actually, that might be worth tempting money out of people. That's a robot made out of a trash can. What?
Well, we did tell you to put escort quests in there. Now you can escort the trash can.
Admittedly, I do have a supermarket child's ride as a mount. The
I
the
remember.
one-
I remember that one. I don't think I've got it,
the
but
one
The
from the
big
OK
wheel?
Watch event.
yeah, the one that's sort of like a ghost
Yeah, it's
sort of thing,
Whisper.
right? Yeah.
Hang on,
Get
let
the
me
big
see.
wheels.
Let me see mounts. Now, I don't have that many mounts actually. I really should go. Well, farming mounts involves doing the high level. Dude, oh my god, the line doesn't even fit in it. That's great.
Wouldn't- to be fair, nobody really does.
Nobody really does unless you're a Lalafell. So he's just sitting there. He's got his feet in the footwell, and he's just sitting up on the back of it. This is great.
Go ride your big wheel, and let's keep moving with the week since you gotta
Yep,
go
yep.
at the end of the show.
The only other thing I really have of mentioning of my week is I caught up on the Ward audiobook, which ended with a rather disturbing arc. Not
Set-
arc.
Arc. Yeah, well, the whole arc is disturbing. Polarize Arc 10 is it's setting up for some really crazy stuff. I've read ahead in the actual book, so I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a good arc with the villain that's been set up with that one.
Yeah.
We do not, which is good because we're just coming off of Arc 9 from your perspective.
Yep.
Arc 9 was not very good.
Arc 9 was it. Yeah, it kind of smacked of an experiment that didn't work properly.
Arc 9 had a bunch of good interludes in it, a bunch of really good interludes in it.
Yep.
But the main arc was awful. Just
Yeah.
horrible.
We've seen authors before where you kind of had a protagonist telling the story in the first person where they've been brainjacked or mentally altered in some way. But
Whammied.
not, yeah, basically they've been whammied. But not for an entire arc like that.
Yeah, and it does not help that it's one of the longest arcs in either Worm or Ward.
Yeah.
At 15, I think, main chapters. And
Yeah.
for those that don't understand, Worm Ward chapters are not short.
No, they're a fairly meaty ordeal. In
Like-
audiobooks, the audiobook terms, they tend to be anywhere between half an hour to an hour, some even longer.
Yeah, quite a few in Arc 9 are an hour and a half.
Yeah.
This is a very long arc.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
And it starts off okay. The premise sounds cool when you realize we're finally dealing with one of the villains they set up at the end of Worm. And they've taken precautions to make sure they don't get whammied. They're 50 miles away from her, and she still is able to whammy them.
Yeah, because she's completely broken.
Yeah,
Well,
this seems OP.
Yeah, that's her story, is she's busted. She took over another Earth. At
Yeah.
the end of Worm, events happened that ripped her out of that world, and she's no longer in power, and her powers have been diminished, but she's still stupidly powerful.
Yeah. So you've got
And
this whole arc where the protagonist, Victoria, is mentally whammied. So she's kind of whammied into thinking that Goddess is, well, her goddess, the can do no wrong high lord of her universe.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of that's what one of her powers does.
Yeah,
Because,
her
she's
main
so broken,
power-
she doesn't have just one overpowered power.
Yeah, this is what happens when the spoiled brat triggers from a trigger event.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's what Goddess is, and why she's so obnoxious as the main villain / primary big good, I guess, for the arc, is she's a spoiled brat.
Yeah.
And we have to put up with this, and our protagonist justifying it because she's brainwashed.
Yes.
And it's the most obnoxious thing on the planet to read through.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is starting to feel very Endless 8.
I'm not sure what that one is.
It's a hurry thing, but no, it's not quite that bad.
Oh.
There's a story here, but it's not. Okay, so we have two characters I think would have worked much better as POV characters that were not whammied for most of this arc. We had Byron, who is one of the people that shares a body and with his twin brother, who was swapped out at the time when everybody got whammied. So when he switches back in, he's not whammied. But everybody else immediately realizes that he's not whammied. And that would have been a perfect point to cut POV for just this chapter to him and just do the whole arc from him. And if you had to have him get whammied like he does later, switch it over to Crystal Clear, who's a tertiary character that's been around for several arcs, but is not whammied until the very last little bit of this chapter, where he gets unwhammied in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
There were solutions to this problem, but Wildebeest really, really wanted to try this, and it just didn't work.
It just didn't work. And Final Fantasy XIV crashed. Yay!
Aw.
So
yeah.
My character's probably going to be face down in the dirt when I get back in now. You watch.
What, did you switch to Dragoon?
It's the same thing.
But yeah.
So yeah.
Since we probably won't be talking about Ward for quite a while, since there won't be any major updates for a long time. What do you think of Ward as a whole, especially compared to Worm?
As a whole, it feels a bit more structured. Like the big thing with Worm is you had Taylor kind of going in with really good intentions, but trying to do the wrong thing for the right reasons.
Yeah, it's a series where things constantly escalate because the main character sees no alternative other than to escalate things.
Yeah, even if she stopped for 5 minutes and actually thought about what she was doing, she would have come up with a better solution.
Well, she does stop, but she's not. Taylor is a flawed person.
Yeah,
Taylor has problems, and I think the author does a really good job without explicitly pointing out hinting that there's something wrong with the way Taylor sees the world and does things.
She kind of cottons onto it about halfway through the book.
But by then she's too deep in and justifies whatever she does is right anyway because she's just too far gone.
Yeah, that's right. So eventually she does kind of gain that insight to reflect on what she's actually doing, but by then she's way in.
In Ward, we have the polar opposite of that, though, which tells a totally different story.
Yeah.
The other big difference is Taylor was a villain for like 8/10 of Worm, so she was allowed to do whatever the heck she needed to accomplish the goal. And we got to see her have to make hardened decisions like that. Victoria is a hero. Yay!
Yay!
Victoria is a hero, and her goal is de-escalation. Things have reached critical point at the end of Worm, and society has started getting its boots back on at the start of Ward. But she's trying to reinstitute law and order, and this causes a bit of a shoe with the tone compared to Worm, I think. Because it's a totally different story.
Yeah. Like, Victoria's trying to impose order back into essentially what is a group of really damaged people.
Yeah. She is working with all people that are royally messed in the head, even worse than parahumans normally are, who are all messed in the head.
Yeah.
And these guys have additional extra problems that go far beyond just simple mental problems.
Yeah. So
in addition to the normal shenanigans that come with, having to go through the most traumatic experience of your life possible to get powers.
Yeah, which involves basically horrible experiences, and you're going to walk away from that with some mental scars.
So she's trying to put back together what Taylor broke.
Yeah, what Taylor broke was already falling apart to begin with.
Yeah, but she just kind of lit the dynamite in the house and made it explode.
Yeah.
And now they've got the shell of the house back together, and Victoria's trying to help put the siding on and put the sheetrock back in place.
Yeah. I think by the end of the start of chapter 10, or arc 10, you've kind of got everybody's deal who's in the group, the main group.
Yeah, Arc 9 was clearly our Leviathan arc. Even though it was badly written, unfortunately, we didn't get the same kind of epic giant fight against the kaiju that we did for the turning point in Worm, but it was definitely the same thing in Ward.
Yeah. So you kind of come into the story with two of the group's backstories already, being Victoria, who's her primary deal now happens during Worm.
Yeah, the repercussions of what happened with where she exited the story for a while in Worm.
Yeah, and Sveta shows up kind of at the end, and she's basically a face and cheese wire. That's it.
Yeah.
So
Little Miss Chicken Wire Tentacles with a face is the only physical description appropriate for her.
Yeah, but the thing is, in that universe, she's probably one of the only genuinely nice characters.
I'm not so sure. She tries to be nice, but she's just jacked up from being a literal face with tentacles.
Oh yeah, she's got a nasty streak in her. And
like,
that,
that'll mess with you.
yeah. So let's face it, you can take the entire cast of Worm, just take the lawful good on the alignment chart and just throw it away.
Yeah, pretty much.
You don't need that. There's maybe
That's all.
2, maybe 3 characters who kind of fit into that section, and that's
Well,
it.
there's our boy Chevalier.
Chevalier is just, he's got his own square, and that's called Badass.
Yeah. That boy is awesome.
Yeah,
if you should read Worm, if we have sold any part of it to you, you should read it just for the bits that Chevalier's in.
Yeah, like thinking
The dude
about it,
literally walks up to the kaiju with his guts hanging out, with stapled in and the staples are falling out, with the help of his best buddy, because his best buddy knows he can't stop him, with a big wall of radiation coming at his face, just like, I'm gonna take this guy down, and pulls out his giant cannon blade, and he does some work on him before the end of the fight.
Yeah, the guy tanks the kaiju with a gun lance. I mean, he's that badass.
Everything about Chevalier's
with
awesome.
His guts hanging out while standing in a radioactive kill aura.
Yeah,
and he survives.
So it's worth it for that. If nothing else, all the scenes with Chevalier like that are awesome. He's lawful good at the end. He didn't start that way, but he got there in the end.
He's one of the lawful good. Weld's kind of there somewhere as well.
Weld's probably lawful good, yeah. Big metal man.
Big metal man. He's a genuinely nice guy, but he's got baggage because he's a giant metal man.
That automatically absorbs anything metally, which leads to a whole lot of funny scenes.
It does. Him walking around with various bits of cutlery stuck to him.
Yep. Dude can't touch anything. I think there's a point in one side story where Sveta smacks him in the head with a frying pan, and it just gets stuck on his head.
There is talking about, for some reason they ended up talking about back hair in character, and Sveta start talking about his back forks.
That's right, I remember that.
It's a very surreal scene.
But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in Ward. It's just very different than Worm.
Yeah, it does have its lighter moments, not as many as Worm though.
Yeah,
Worm starts off reasonably light.
Yeah, it starts you. The bigger story events are much bigger right away because Victoria's already established from Worm, and you're not supposed to read Ward until you read Worm.
Yeah, don't read Ward without reading Worm.
Yeah,
otherwise you're not going to understand anything that's going on.
Yeah, especially not with our pro tag.
Nah. And why she's talking about the hospital and not elaborating on it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's worth your time to go check it out. Now that you've caught up, I think I can give it to the audiobook anyway. I can give my fair recommendation on it. I will say don't be too tiptoey when you start seeing like the gay characters and stuff pop up. I know that's SJW warning flags normally, but Wildebeest or Wild Bow is not going to play it the way that the left would play it at all.
Well, generally when the left pops up, that's their entire thing. That's the entirety of the character.
And let's just say that all the LGBT characters might in fact be the worst human beings on the planet.
Yeah, Tristan comes across as a nice guy, but he does some really horrible stuff.
Oh yeah, he's easily I think what he did is the most evil thing in the series.
Yeah.
By far. Yes. On a personal level, yeah, what he's done in his past is outright evil.
Oh yeah.
The dude should have gotten the death sentence, and the only reason he didn't was because the world ended.
Yeah. There's also the whole snag of what would happen to Byron in that instance.
Yeah, that's why it's
the
so
victim.
Evil. Yeah, I can't wait to see more of their story. But yeah, don't get too turned off by that type of character showing up. Wild Bow isn't going to play it like the left would. They're not going to be Mary Sue's. They're probably going to use it for a real story reason, like to avoid the talk of sex, which Wild Bow unfortunately threw his hands up on, just to make the horribleness of those two poor boys' situation even worse.
Yep.
But yeah, it's worth it. I think so. Yeah. So far, anyway. But it's hard to call until the story finishes. But yeah.
So yeah, it's fine to have all those types of characters in there. Just don't make it be their only defining feature.
And don't make them Rage and Mary Sue's, and you're fine. And Wild Bow avoids both those traps, and they're fairly infrequent.
Yeah, they're actually humans.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to end my week there.
Yeah. Okie doke.
I know it's been going for a while, but hey, that was actual content. Mostly.
Fall, you have a week.
No, I don't.
No, he doesn't.
I just had a. This is why I said before the show. I'm just going to skip my week because I just had a week of brutal work pretty much, and I would just get home and pretty much blob out. Like I didn't have any energy left to do anything. So other than a bit of FGO grinding, I didn't really do anything. There's just nothing to talk about.
All right. I guess we'll jump into my week then, and I do not have very much either, which is, I guess, makes sense since both me and Vol were piggybacking off of Fern's week. The only video game I put any significant amount of time into, Serathis might appreciate. Oh goodness, this game is really loud when I booted it up so I could look at the UI and talk while I'm looking at the UI. I need to get that volume mixer up. I forgot I switched sound devices from my speakers to my headset. Okay, that's much better. So I played Crosscode this week. I had played the alpha, beta, whatever version. And this, before I even talk about the game, I want to talk about labeling something alpha, beta, whatever on Steam. And how this made me dismiss this game, basically until I decided to boot it up on a whim this week.
That's because those labels tend to be completely arbitrary.
Because they mean the game is released technically in a state as is, but just hasn't been bug fixed yet. And they just don't want any criticism for any of the bugs.
Mm-hmm.
And they do not plan on updating a significant amount. No, what we got for Crosscode was neither an alpha nor a beta. It was a demo.
Okay.
What we got before was the introductory tutorial dungeon and story section. And we didn't even get any of the first area in the beta I played. We didn't get to the first real dungeon.
Wow.
We got the tutorial dungeon. So I was thinking, okay, this game's going to maybe have a bit of trickle content in it. It's a little beta game made by some indie guy on it looks like almost a solo project. It's been running so long that Caramel Dancing is a cheat code you can enter to have your character do the Caramel Dancing dance.
See, now that's how you can tell it's dated.
That's how old it is. So I completely wrote this game off after I played the beta. I'm like, oh, maybe it'll get done later. Maybe it'll have something. Maybe it won't. And did not pay attention to it. Didn't put it on my radar because it used that word beta in Steam when that word has that kind of connotation in Steam. And I think this is a case of using that word and it coming back to bite you in the butt. Because I just didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And I'm really sad that's the case because it turns out this game's pretty good. Now that, it's an actual game instead of just a demo like what they claimed what they claimed was a beta. So let me get a controller up so I can actually flip through the UI and walk through this a bit easier with it in front of my face. So the game opens with you playing through a prologue section from this black-haired girl's name, and she goes to the house of this one dude who's sitting at a computer, and the dude at the computer presumably dies in her arms, and then you flash forward, and you're now this blue-haired girl named Leia who can't talk because there's something wrong with the voice synchronization with her avatar she's using in this world.
Is this just an excuse for video game protagonist syndrome?
I don't know yet, because they're playing it really unique. I've not seen somebody play the silent protagonist trope quite this way. I've seen things that do it like this, but I've never seen one do the silent protagonist that is clearly a character in their own right, but just cannot talk and is sitting there waving their arms and attempting to communicate with facial expressions. So their solution to this is because the character of Leia is the avatar of somebody in the real world in an MMO-like setting that has its own twist I'll get to in a minute. And the problem is the sync between whatever systems in her brain control her voice and the avatar just don't work. And I'll get to that at the end of the spoilery section, since I'll only spoil up to the start of the second dungeon. And so they hard code into the avatar pre-canned responses as the story goes on. So you get things like, hi, and why, and how, and she can say her name. She can say Leia, and it takes the guy that's hard coding this stuff like forever to write the code for each one word that he can give her. So they start piling up over time. And whenever you're asked questions, you're sometimes just given the whole list of options you can pick from that you have currently unlocked. And so you can just sit there saying hi at somebody over again, or saying your name to them, going Leia, Leia, Leia over and over again. They're like, oh, you have a speech box that's broken. They're like, yeah. And apparently this is common enough that people know about it, but not something that happens to very many people in this world. So we get an explicit character reason for why I think this is going to be revealed to be the problem at the end of this section. But it's interesting take on the silent protagonist. And in this MMO world, she runs around and she's the game's set up weird. Its premise is you're playing an MMO, but you're playing it, you the player are playing it as a single player game. But all the conventions of an MMO are here and mixed with the Metroidvania style of exploration. Just instead of jumping, you have when you run to the edge of a platform or a ledge, you will automatically jump. And if there is a ledge that it would be high enough to hop up on, you press against the wall and you'll just kind of hop up. So that's how it does its platforming. Okay. But there's a whole lot of twists and ways with like boost pads and jump pads and making things jumpable that you can do in the game that makes the exploration pretty interesting. At least so far. But yeah, so the MMO world they're in isn't set up like a digital space. It's not a server that they go onto. They had to physically build this place in the real world and use this fake-ish matter that they can construct into anything that is not very stable to construct all the gamey elements, like the teleport pads and the actual avatars the players control. But the actual MMO world is just a place, just a giant plot of land in some nowhere country that these people bought and set the game up in. So it makes a whole lot of what's going on in this world a lot more interesting, because we're not just in a computer game doing this. We're at a real place with in a real location in this game's world. So there's actual real consequences to if like a tree falls down here, it's going to fall down in the real world too. So it puts a little more investment in the story and the setting, because this place is not just data. It's a real for realsies place. And I think that little story beat goes a long way to make it where I went from, oh, I'll try this game out again, to, oh, I actually this is kind of cool. I'll pay attention to this. Because it's not a twist you see, I think I can think of this done ever, which makes it a hybrid VR, AR MMO that these characters are playing. And eventually, our character has amnesia as standard with protags in these games.
Because of course.
And we get flashbacks of her memory. And we realize at the start, right before the second dungeon, the whole reason she's playing this game is because while in this game, it somehow stimulates her brain enough while she's in a coma in real life to trigger memories and trigger any kind of neurological response at all. So playing it for a while and then logging off and actively engaging her brain is getting her to a point where she might be able to recover. So there's and that's also why her speech box is broken, apparently. Whatever head trauma she suffered did damage to that area of her brain.
Right.
That's like the B plot of the most recent Sword Art Online season.
Yeah. So that's the main plot of this game. And I think that's really cool. It's not something I've seen done in a video game story very much. And you have characters that log onto the game and have their little avatars constructed near you. And you'll talk to them and you'll get to meet other players and join a guild. And you join the guild ostensibly that is, the game's been released, but nobody's figured out what all the lore means yet. So this guild is going to go out and try and figure out what all the lore is and make a wiki about it. I guess. I don't know what they're actually going to do with all this information once they get it. But so you join the wiki making guild is what I'm going to call them, because I forgot their real name. And you go on adventures with your little buddies. And one thing I've really liked about it so far is the puzzles in combat are surprisingly challenging for a level-based, stat-based action RPG. They do a very good job of capping the EXP you get from enemies, but never reducing it to nothing. So you can always get something.
So if you're getting totally ass blasted by something, you can grind.
Yeah, it's going to be a long grind, but every level takes 1,000 experience. And how much EXP you get for killing a mob goes down eventually to 1, depending on how many levels above it you are. But yeah, you can go grind it out. That number will never change. The only difference is the closer you are to the enemy's level, the more EXP it's going to give you, and your level will stay 1,000 to the next level no matter what. So even if everything only falls down to a point where it gives you one EXP, you can go kill 1,000 things and you'll still level up, which has been really nice. And the exploration mechanics in this game are very hard to describe because of the nature of the platforming. But as I mentioned earlier, you run, and as you get close to an edge, you'll automatically jump. But this game plays with this by making a whole lot of things different elevations and finding out how to get up on the edges of a preset map. And these map rooms are huge. Like, you'll be in like a forest that has only autumn leaves everywhere, and they'll be absolutely massive. But you'll see a hillside surrounding the entire floor of the forest you're on for this one forest room, and you're wondering how to get up on those cliff faces, and you'll run around jumping off of platforms until you find one that you can hop up a little bit on. And you'll be able to navigate your way up to a bunch of standing independent little rock formations and jump off the top of all of them to get to the edge of the map, and that'll take you to a treasure chest. And stuff like that is present in every map I played through so far. And it's been really interesting and really fun. The combat is, I'm not even sure how I would describe this. It's not twin stick, but it feels like it was deviated from the twin stick shooter genre, where you have a basic melee attack where you can mash a melee combo out that does a good hefty chunk of damage but leaves you vulnerable because you're in melee range of enemies. But the MMO class your protag is locked into playing is called the Spheromancer, and they throw balls at people. And so on a control stick, and this game feels like it was meant to be played with a mouse and keyboard, so I don't know what the equivalent is, but it works just fine on a control pad. Is if you tilt a control stick in a certain direction, your character will have an aiming reticule that slowly fills up to make the shot more precise and makes the shot bigger and bounce more times and do more damage if you let it fill up all the way. And you'll shoot in a perfectly straight line from where you're aiming. And it has a whole bunch of dots that go off pretty far on the screen, so you have a good idea where the ball's eventually gonna hit. And you press another button to fire, but you can still move around with this, so it's not a twin stick shooter. The other stick is not your shoot button. But so yeah, it's a really interesting way to do combat, and the way they set up so this doesn't become boring is a lot of enemies have states where they're not invulnerable. Thankfully, you can brute force most enemies down if you really want to. If you really just don't feel like dealing with whatever their gimmick is, you can just sit there and shoot them with balls forever, and eventually they'll fall over. But they have a state called a break state, where if you meet a certain condition while fighting them, and you'll discover this by stuff that's just naturally placed around the enemies or just by trying different crap on them at different times, they'll go into a break state where for about 4 seconds they take like 800% bonus damage. And this is almost mandatory for some mobs. Sometimes there'll be little explosive bombs laying around that if you switch to your fireballs and shoot, they'll roll along the ground and explode. And if you hit some enemies with that, they'll go into their break state when you blow them up like that. And there are some where you can only break them by attacking them from behind with melee attacks and stuff like that. So they do the enemy design smartly, and they keep things fairly balanced for what most people would probably consider a hardish normal mode or an easy-ish hard mode in most other games. It doesn't feel too extreme, and it doesn't feel too busted, but stuff does hit really hard. If you don't keep your gear and stats up and pay attention to what you're doing, you're going to get bodied. So yeah, so far I've been actually really enjoying what the game's got, and I'm just really disappointed because I totally ignored this game because it had that stupid beta tag on Steam. And on top of it having the bad connotation of a Steam beta or alpha or whatever, it also did not indicate that what we got was just a demo. It was neither alpha nor beta. It was a demo. It was
on the page now. There's something just flagged as the demo.
Yeah, so that might be the old alpha beta thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I bought this game for $15 probably years ago at this point, and had it sitting in my Steam library, I'm just like, that's not very impressive for the price they asked for. But now I'm probably looking at, if I had to guess, probably about a 30-40 hour game with solid, decent mechanics and what's actually in a world that's got me actually a little interested. I don't know how it's going to play out. I may retract all that as soon as I get to the end of the story. Who knows?
They claim 30 to 80 hours.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a really long game, and there's a whole lot of content here and stuff to do. So yeah, I don't quite know how much time I'm gonna have to play it. This week I was very, very busy. I only had time to put in about 6 hours into this game so far, and all the rest of my free time was spent working. I was just way too busy this week.
All
So
right.
yeah, that's about it for video games. And other than people being turbo speds on Twitter, there's nothing new in the Vic case because Nick was out of town with his wife, and he's our main source of information.
There's been some really dumb stuff that's come out, but yeah,
it's just more law Twitter being turbo speds.
Yes. Throw out the case because Fifis.
It's bad, but yeah, there's nothing specific to talk about.
Yeah.
it's just it continues to be funny. That's all I'll mention about the Kickvic case.
Yeah, whoops, that was a bomb. Alright, we should probably take a break then.
We should. So let's go to a break and we'll be back with some news. And we're back.
Yep. So, I just discovered that going into Palace of the Dead and just standing around, wandering monsters happen.
You don't say.
Yeah, that wasn't pleasant.
Mobs in my MMO? Say it ain't so, Jim.
Mobs that aren't where they're supposed to be. I also forgot just
Trolling
how...
mobs?
I just forgot how dull the first levels of Palace of the Dead can be. Because everyone's only got, what, 1 or 2 abilities.
Yeah.
So yeah, bang. Other bang.
So there were no emails when I checked.
Nope, not this week.
We got some good news, though.
Stuff did happen. Lots of little things.
Yeah, not a whole lot of big stuff this week.
And I can't actually
I guess we
see
can...
it. So you guys are going to have to steer
I've
this.
got mine up, so we'll start with the topic that mostly pertains to the stuff I talk about. The group Mages, who has been in some kind of partnership with 5PB and the Kodokawa group, who make the Science Adventure series, is what I'm primarily interested in, and what most people know them for, has split off and is now its own independent company. And they have completely absorbed 5PB. So that is the group behind Science Adventures, so I don't know if that means they own all the rights, but Mages said they're going to try and localize about a month ago. I didn't talk about this then, but it's relevant now.
they're going to try and localize both Chaos Head and Robotics Notes.
No, but they both have their own Neptunia characters.
But yeah, Mages and 5PB are now one company under Mages. I don't think they've changed the name.
Mage's
So-
character is like the most incredibly toony character imaginable.
Or
Who's,
the edges.
Who's 5PB's character?
I can't remember offhand. I spent more time with Mages than with 5PB, but
What game was she from? Do you remember?
no, I don't remember offhand. They changed the cast so much because different versions of Neptunia launch with different casts depending on licensing at the time of launch.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
see.
there's no consistency whatsoever. Even the same game, like the same game might get released like 3 times depending on updates and platform and bugs and whatnot. And each time it might have a different cast of supporting characters because they couldn't get the license for the next release or whatever. It's a mess. The franchise is a mess.
Yes,
I love it.
is. It revels in its messiness.
5PB is apparently a actual character, but I don't know what she's based on. Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know what character she's channeling from any of the Silent Venture series. So
Well, they're not always supposed to channel a particular character. Like to a certain extent, Falcom does, but most of them don't really focus on a single one. They're just supposed to embody the overall sort of attitude of the company that they represent. Like all of Major's character or costumes are from Steins Gate, and she makes jokes about Steins Gate and so on. But I don't, since I'm not really familiar with it. I don't know what the jokes actually are. But it's also she's like a pimp named Slickback in the sense that you have to say her name with the full stop at the end.
Oh, Mages period.
Yeah.
I see. But yeah, those two companies have split off and are now their own entity under Mages, I think. I don't know if we have a separate name for them, but yep, that's pretty good. I'm really happy about Robotics Notes finally getting a localization. I've wanted to read it forever. The anime was pretty good, but it wasn't exceptional. And it traditionally, Science Adventure VNs have had a good track record with me. Their anime stuff and original anime stuff has been historically pretty bad, unless your name is Steins Gate. So hopefully we'll see some good stuff from them, and we'll see more localizations, because holy crap, 5PB couldn't localize anything to save their life.
They were really that good, were they?
They just didn't either didn't want to, or their overhead group was not letting them, or I don't know what the deal was. But yeah. So that was a small news nugget that I found. Y'all have any other one you particularly want to talk about, or we can make fun of Nintendo or do something else?
Well, you've already alluded to it, so hit on it.
All right. So there's a whole lot of Nintendo and Fire Emblem stuff this week. We'll start with the Nintendo generic one, and then we'll move on to Fire Emblem. That seems sane.
Yep.
So there's a class action lawsuit against Nintendo for Joy-Con drift.
Yes.
This has been a notorious issue. I know at least 2 people personally that have told me about it and complained about it. And for those that don't know, because it's not, well, I don't know why you wouldn't know, but just in case you don't. Joy-Con drift or joystick drift is when your joystick starts having connection issues with the sensor or the copper pin or whatever's underneath it. And it will either start stuttering while you're walking, or you'll start automatically walking when the control stick is in neutral, or something to that effect when you're playing a game.
Yep.
And this is a problem for obvious reasons. It makes pretty much any game unplayable.
It doesn't apply just to Joy-Cons either. I'm actually having a little bit of an issue with it on my
DualShock.
GameCube controller.
Oh, yeah.
Is it a software or a hardware issue?
it's a hardware issue from what I can tell. All the fixes are hardware related, at least. I don't know if Nintendo's confirmed anything about it, but it appears to be a hardware issue because all the fixes I've seen have been hardware fixes where you actually have to crack the thing open and clean the thing with alcohol, and they may or may not work. Sometimes those pins just get bent.
Yep.
And yeah, I think this just is the nature of those things being too flimsy for a portable device, and it's just kind of drifting over time. So yeah.
Yeah, it certainly makes playing a game like Mario Kart fun, where you're just every now and again just slowly drift off to the left.
Well, yeah, I had to replace my old controller because I was playing Devil May Cry 5, and my DualShock actually got a lot of joystick drift on it, and that was a problem when Dante suddenly went moving, and there's an attack coming for him, and I'm on Dante Mastai mode.
Yeah, that means you're going to get smooshed.
Yeah, there is no room for delay there when you're already playing in bullet time IRL.
Yeah.
So it was a problem, and I had to replace my DualShock. I just bought a new controller because I have money now. But yeah, and so that's a thing that is happening, and I thought this might be a problem, but I didn't have a real time I could think of to bring it up. It's been something in the back of my head for a while. But yeah, Nintendo needs to be called out on this. Because all this does is force people to buy more Joy-Cons.
I did see a mention that they've started to repair that for free.
Yes, and
After
that would
the
be
class action happened.
That would be the correct response as soon as you get enough legal trouble with this issue to make it a thing.
Yup.
Yeah, so apparently the problem was even more prevalent than I thought if it's getting a class action lawsuit. But yeah, Joy-Con drift is a problem that I experience a lot because I grip especially on PlayStation controllers, I grip my controllers really hard when I get in a really tense situation or I've been playing for hours and I just want to beat this really hard challenge or go to bed after I'm done or take a break after this.
I've done that and I haven't realized it in the past. And then when you stop playing, you have a bad case of crab hands.
Yeah. Yeah, you should play Dante and DMC5 on Dante Must Die mode.
Yeah, no.
And S-rank all the missions. You get claw crab hands. It's really cool. Because you have to press the D-pad with your index fingers.
I'm going to nip you. Yeah.
It happens. You have to, because of the claw grip you have to use on the controller for Dante to maximize S-rank combos. You get claw crab hands.
Your hands just kind of stay in that position. It's really unpleasant.
I don't think I need that in my life.
Nobody wants crab hands.
Like every microbiologist has carpal tunnel by the end of their career. I don't need to speed it up.
Yeah, so that's a thing. But that isn't all with Nintendo this week. I have been warning people to be wary of Three Houses from its announcement.
Mm-hmm.
I as far as I'm concerned, Fire Emblem that I loved is dead and doesn't exist anymore. And I've been trying to tell old hat Fire Emblem fans to be very careful of new Fire Emblem games because the localization on these things, even if Nintendo themselves makes concessions for us, will often get curtailed by localization efforts, as we found out in Awakening and Fates. And Fates was so egregious in its just attempts to rip you off with money and stuff cut through localization that in the end made the hardest difficulty nigh unplayable when you got to the late game because you were missing resources because they decided swimsuits were too sexy.
You know, that it's sort of sad because they marketed it relatively well. Like it managed to draw my interest and so on and so forth. But the crap about you've got to buy multiple versions of the game, play the whole game,
and then you have to buy the last act of the game as its own separate release game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, this is not merely nickeling and diming people. This is a cynical marketing to the point of like comical idiocy that you think that this is going to wash.
And just to, as the tipper on all that let's say you only bought one copy of the game but you bought it third party, so Nintendo didn't get any money for this crap like I did. Well, it turns out if you want to play the last act of the game, the physical print run for that was so small, there's no way in heck you're finding a third party copy of it.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah, you need to buy that digitally.
I'm thinking
So
about
you need to buy and download this giant ass video game and put it on your 3D SSD card, which is not huge if you're using any of the default versions SD cards, and you have to give Nintendo money directly for it. You don't have the option to tell them to stuff it. That made me so mad. And everything about Fates was a disaster. You go see my rants about Fates back when I was playing it on some shows ago, probably a year and some change now. It was bad. So I've been warning people against Three Houses. As somebody that experienced Fire Emblem Fates firsthand and suffered through the whole dang thing, so you don't have to. I've been telling people to be wary, and it might have been justified.
Well, the reality is that even if the producers have learned their lesson about what they can and cannot and should not attempt to get away with from a sales perspective, I'm fairly sure that it's going to get lobotomized by the localization anyway.
Yeah.
I have less than zero faith that they're capable of even if the game is bad, they're still not capable of doing it justice. Because they think that they got away with it last time, where they basically ransacked it to make it more social justice friendly.
Yep. And so what's happened here is we have a case of Nintendo being really touchy about the game. Well, first let's get into the technical thing. We'll do the woke localization stuff later. But first, Lunatic difficulty is post-launch DLC.
Ugh.
Excuse me. I'm not playing a Fire Emblem game that's for me to sleep through, especially a modern Fire Emblem game.
Well, more to the point, it's not content.
Yeah.
They're just changing some of the statistics.
Well, in theory. Or enemy placements or adding units to certain maps, stuff like
Those
that.
are just
Not
numbers.
hard.
Those are just numbers. That's not content.
Yeah.
That's just adjusting variables within existing content.
I think one map was different between the two games, or in Fire Emblem Fates, between difficulties. I think only one had any significant map changes.
I'm not really that convinced that maps are really a thing in strategy RPGs.
Oh, in Fire Emblem, every square matters, especially.
I know every square map matters, but I don't think of them as maps because they are just statistics.
Yeah, there are events that will cause the bridge to collapse and stuff like that in some maps, and make some parts of the map inaccessible, and stuff will pop up. I think only one map had any significant change, and it's where a moat drained, so that you had to deal with enemies in the moat.
That's not really content.
But yeah,
ultimately just changing the statistical conditions of a fight.
The point is that Nintendo has not allocated enough testing resources to get this out in time, because that's all it would require to get this out in time, is to get more testers on board. So it just really hacks me off, because modern Fire Emblem games are really easy. Really, really easy. You can grind in them, for goodness sake.
Ugh.
And it is just not an experience you're looking for if you're an old hat Fire Emblem fan. You want to crank that difficulty up. And the fact that Lunatic is post-launch DLC just kind of makes me really mad. It makes me not want to buy this game at launch. Oh, there's other reasons I didn't want to buy this game at launch, because I was worried after their Fates fiasco, but it's just another mark against them.
I don't know what. I think that this is something that is sort of like the second attempt sort of delusion that they're under, and the same applies to the woke thing. Is that last time they got away with it because it was new last time. They did a different sort of marketing push on the last Fire Emblem. They marketed it to a different audience. They really, really spent a lot of money promoting it, and once people bought in, it was like in for a penny, in for a pound. I'll finish this one off. The second game is not taking into account that people remember how angry they were last time. They're just thinking, oh well, people bought it last time. They aren't taking into account that people bought it and got burned last time.
And unfortunately, I don't think they'll learn their lesson here either, because the Switch just has sold so many dang units. Enough, and there are so few. The first party games are spaced out enough by Nintendo, and they're marketing to such a casual audience now that I don't think they'll learn their lesson. I don't think they'll realize they've abandoned their core audience, and honestly, I don't think they'll care because
Well,
they'll make
they'll care if they don't actually sell any. Like the no matter which way you slice it, the market is still relatively niche.
Yeah, it depends on how many of the normies or people that like traditional waifu JRPGs you sucker into playing a Fire Emblem game.
Well,
And-
I mean, even that's gonna like a certain amount of satisfaction is required from the waifu game in order for it to work, and it is entirely possible for them to fail that condition based on localization alone.
Yeah, so we got our first localization gaffe from Nintendo. Now, I'll preface this. Christina V was originally going to be the lead voice actress for the main heroine, and she got axed for breaking NDA. Like, she was in the original trailer as the voice of the female lead, and she got axed for a minor NDA break, from what I remember. It was just a hint of something that might be in the game. And so, for some reason, Nintendo has been really sensitive about this. Well, Reset Era decided to start a brigade against Christopher Noisy. I can't say his last name. Niosi. Noisy.
Nielsi, something like that.
Kerbifer. Dude, the dude that made Tome.
Incidentally, if you haven't watched Tome, go watch it. It's actually pretty good.
I don't remember enough about Tome. I watched it eons ago to recommend it or not. But yeah, so Kerbifer was voicing the male lead of Fire Emblem Three Houses. This or the protagonist, sorry, the male voice for the protagonist, not the male lead. That's somebody else. And the Reset Era just got on this hate boner for people, like they do. Something sexual misconduct allegations, something no evidence behind it from what I saw. And started a brigade to Nintendo, and all of a sudden, it's suddenly found that that Kerbifer broke the NDA at some point, and now he's fired.
Well, I mean, they seen it work before.
Yeah, and yeah, this is not good. I don't know how bad his NDA break was, but this is and Kerbifer's a dumb Californian, I think, because that's just the way the world works. If you're in California, specific areas of California, and he apologized like an idiot.
Yeah, you don't apologize.
Why apologize? Like, there's no reason unless they can absolutely nail you in court. There's no reason to apologize because that's just an admission of guilt. Fundamentally, it will be taken by everybody watching as an admission of guilt, and it will show weakness so that they can pile in even further. And now that they know that they've got, there's a knife in the chink in the armor, they will just pile on until your life is destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you're inviting that as soon as you apologize.
Yeah, I think it's just people trying the old PR tactics that don't work in 180 character culture. Like, that doesn't work anymore. If you apologize, you open yourself up to more attacks and do nothing for yourself. For you personally, there is no reason to ever make an apology for somebody accusing you of anything on the internet. Regardless of what side of the political spectrum you fall on, it's just a bad idea.
It's just not going to make it go away. Like, it doesn't matter how innocent you are. It doesn't matter how guilty you are, for that matter. It doesn't matter what you say in your apology. You're not actually having an impact. You're not changing anything by apologizing.
In the world of the internet, people can keep ragging on you and take that apology immediately and turn it into more ammo to throw at you.
Yeah, because there's no apology will be good enough. There's literally no way to supply an apology that people will be satisfied with. It is fundamentally impossible.
The era.
It's not even. Go on.
Okay.
Go on.
Oh, the era. God damn
it! Professionalism at work, folks.
Total professionalism.
Okay. The era of the PR apology that you would see famous people make ended in the 90s, folks.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Arguably
work
even
anymore.
before then.
Yeah, that doesn't work anymore now that people can get on your case right away, and it's there for everyone to see forever.
I don't think it's just that. I think it's the sort of the momentum snowball. So the public apology by a celebrity never worked. There was never a stage in history which people accepted that as an apology.
Nope.
That never happened. The problem was that the public did not have the means to snowball opposition to that apology. So the apology went on the record and the opposition to it didn't, because there was no venue for it. Now, though, because the people apologizing and the people not necessarily even being apologized to, but rubbernecking at the whole process, they are on a level playing field now, to a greater or lesser extent. You will be able to find somebody with a platform to boost that view that, oh, well, this isn't a real apology, or it's not a good enough apology, or it's an insufficient apology, or whatever. So the whole apology thing is meaningless now. Like, the apology that will work, that will do the job, is not even an unreachable goal. It is a logical impossibility. There is no way to satisfy people by definition.
Mm-hmm.
So trying is a waste of your time.
Yeah.
Apologies are for interpersonal relations. They do not absolve guilt.
I think Michael Knowles was on the Candace Owens show, and he said something to this effect. He's like, an apology doesn't mean anything if I make it publicly. An apology is only worth something if I believe I offended you personally and come to you and apologize to you. Because then it's an extension of our interpersonal relationship. It's not just words.
You're rendering humbleness, humility toward a particular person who you think you owe that humility to. You can't do that in public. It's not actually a rhetorical maneuver with any weight.
Yeah. But I think this idea of the public apology is something like, this is just how you get your career back on track, because nobody believed Michael Vick when he said he was so sorry he made the dogs fight each other, and he got kicked out of the NFL. But because he did that, his handlers were able to get him back on track to be a pro football player again.
Yeah, because that apology went on the record, the only record.
Yeah,
that mattered.
But that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, if some celebrity, particularly if they're a minor celebrity, it works the whole way down the chain, but minor celebrities cop it the worst because they know exactly the wrong number of people. But if you put your apology on the record nowadays, everybody else has the same rhetorical power on that record. Everybody is sharing the same space of conversation now. You can't say something and have it automatically flagged as being specially important, which is what the classic public apology was. What made the classic public apology, quote, work, unquote, was the simple fact that everybody was watching, and that the fact that you had everybody watching you made you different to the people doing the watching. Now everybody is a watching and a watchee.
There's a lot of watching that.
There is a lot of watching.
Well, the point is that the playing field has been dramatically leveled in a way that is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a thing, and I think all of this, to bring it back home, I would wait on Fire Emblem Three Houses. I would not rush out and buy this. It's historically, for the last few modern Fire Emblem games, they have not treated the core Fire Emblem fans well. If you're a new fan and this is all what you want, go for it. It's your wallet to vote with. But if you're a classic Fire Emblem fan and are not so hot on a bunch of the new stuff that's been introduced in the Fire Emblem that's taken over the franchise, and you don't like the localization changes, I would wait. I would probably even consider giving it a pass.
Yep.
So, if I can get it third hand after I've confirmed it's not total hot garbage, and I'm going to waste my time with it, I might give you all a first-hand report on it, but I'm not rushing out to buy this right away. This just scares me.
No, I don't see why anybody would, though. Unless they're like die-hard fan. Like, I don't know, like, I would normally, like, even if the Fate franchise decided to go full woke, I would disown it in a New York minute.
Yep.
Even after all of my investment in it. Like, I have no time for that. Zero. I would disown it, and, you know, when the people who were responsible were turfed out, then I would consider going back. If it was NASA who went full woke and decided to drive it through the entire franchise, which I think would be a virtual impossibility to carry out at this point,
He's too drunk to keep up with modern events.
Yeah, he'd have to sober up long enough to understand all that.
Then I would disown it for good. Like, I don't think that fandom is worth, you know, allowing myself to be screwed. No, It's just not. So I don't think that there are going to be that many people who maintain a level of fandom where they will just take this crap over and over and over again. It doesn't seem reasonable at all to me, and especially not after that. I'll buy multiple games plus the DLC in order just to see one story. No, that doesn't wash. Doesn't wash. Too cynical. Too obvious. You could have done it if you'd done it bit by bit, slowly. You could have probably duped people into it.
But
I don't think they chose. Yeah, they don't chose the right. They didn't choose the right strategy. They just straight up said, "No, actually, we want you to buy this whole game 2.5 to 3 times."
Yeah, just hang on. All you Fire Emblem fans that have been supporting us since the first Fire Emblem release in the US and played it on the Game Boy Advance and have been whining that Lindis isn't anywhere because she was your first Lord in any Fire Emblem game, can you just bend over and pay us 3 times for the same game that you're going to hate? No.
That's broken in the localization.
Yeah, no. Not going to happen.
What else we got?
So, I scrolled down. Need to scroll back up. We have... So, we just came off of talking about a company that doesn't test their games enough. So let's talk about what I think might actually be too far testing.
Okay.
So I did all the digging for the articles this week, so that's why I'm leading them, folks.
That and I can't see Discord at the moment. I don't know what's going on there. It's kind of weird.
So we got a bit of a insight into how boss design works when Koji Igarashi is your boss.
Oh dear.
Apparently, he's told all the boss designers they couldn't put their boss in the game unless they could beat their boss with a dagger, no equipment, and not get hit.
So make them do it the hardest possible way.
I approve.
I approve of making sure your game designers have an intimate understanding of the game's mechanics and how things play.
Well, I approve especially because what I have been spending a lot of time experiencing now that I'm working on the reading end of my job is what it feels like to use a program that was clearly designed by somebody who wasn't an end user.
Yeah,
and a freaking nightmare.
So I'm not. The only reason I'm not sure about this is it makes designing very difficult, challenging bosses hard, but it's okay in this case because Bloodstained and the traditional Symphony of the Night style Castlevania game is not meant to be excessively difficult. You're always meant to be able to power your way through it. So forcing the bosses to be beaten with a dagger and making sure it's at least possible seems okay in this franchise. And in this context, I'm very okay with it. I would be more worried if it was a game that was designed around challenge, because there are some bosses where even the devs can barely scratch by. That they have put hundreds and hundreds of hours into redesigning and tweaking and playing through those boss fights. I had an example when I pulled this article up, and I completely am brain farting on it right now. But yeah, I'm going to ask you to take my word for it on that one until it comes back to me. It might come back later.
Is this the guy that made the trailer where he smashes the wine glass?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll prove them wrong.
I liked that trailer. Like, he won me over very quickly with that.
Yep. I think he won a whole lot of sales with that trailer. If the comments are anything to go by, there's floods of people saying, well, I wasn't really interested, but now I am.
I want to see where this goes.
Like, I'll support somebody that says this. Just, if you have not seen the Bloodstained trailer, where it's Koji Igarashi in his very Dracula-esque outfit, sitting there with a wine glass as comments fill up the screen, talking about how bad the graphics of the game are, and him taking a sip of wine and saying, I'll prove them wrong, smashing the ground, then playing a montage of all the new graphics versus the old ones.
Nice.
You need to go check that out.
Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome.
Posted in the live show chat.
Excellent.
Yeah, it is the best trailer for any video game. So, yeah. Let's see here. That's that. That was just a small thing I noticed that I wanted to point out because I thought it was funny. Let's see. And the last thing on here is the no duh Sherlock moment, where Grand Theft Auto Online had a big casino update, and it's blocked in over 50 countries.
Yeah, it's from what I've been able to gather, it's a actual casino. Like you leave your guns and your cars and your gratuitous GTA violence at the door, and you go in and you gamble.
And this is exacerbated by the fact you can purchase funny money, in-game money, with real money. So you're gambling.
Exacerbated.
Yeah.
Yes, at quite a nasty conversion rate as well.
Well, the whole shark cards thing, like the name should tell you all you need to know.
It's kind of right there.
Yeah, but
Hunting for
it's-
whales.
the thing is, there's blood in the water at the moment.
Mhm.
The people who write articles, as much as most of them are just pushing an agenda, they also, their number one priority is not always their agenda. Sometimes it's just clicks.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been misreporting this from what I've heard. There is actually while it is true that in countries where the casino is enabled, because it's disabled in different ways in various countries, and in fact there are some countries where the only part that is disabled is that bought currency doesn't work there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are some countries that disabled it that way, so you can still use your in-game currency. But that's omitted by a lot of reporters. And the other thing that's omitted by reporters is that you can't actually. Now, how does it work? There's actually a time-based cap on how much money you can put into the system.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can only, like, within I think the guy that I watched who did a video on it said something like the most amount of money that you could actually win at the casino works out to about, if you converted it to real currency, about 60 British pence per hour.
Wow, that's not much.
Yeah, considering how expensive the currency are, like, that's how much you're going to be getting out of it. So there's a very, very strong exchange rate based disincentive to actually get addicted to spending money in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could do it. You could 100% do it. However, your ability to cash that would be very, very bad. Like, it's not going to benefit you to try and fire a huge amount of money into the system.
No.
So while it is still like this is a bridge too far in concept, easily, like that's a very easy case to make, in my opinion, when you have an actual casino which receives real money. I mean, the actual process of cashing out through, shady hackers and currency sales people online is so obtuse that it gets around laws actually regulating gambling. But the whole process, while it is in concept a bridge too far, in practice it's got enough blockages in the works that it shouldn't actually be too much of a threat to people with the psychological weaknesses to this particular issue.
Mm.
Yeah.
But
Closer.
because the journalists are only out for clicks, a lot of them neglected to report that part.
Of course.
The bigger point I wanted to highlight with this is how worrying this should make people of Rockstar, especially after the Red Dead fiasco, when it comes to their online stuff. Because
Yeah.
this just seems like they're going full cynical money grab.
Well, the thing is that as far as GTA Online goes, like, it's been full cynical money grab since day one. Like, that's been the number one thing that people have ragged on it for, has been the shark card. And
Yeah.
this is also the people who brought out Red Dead, which I'm
Yeah.
still convinced is what's going to cause the business you work for to go bankrupt.
It might.
It might.
Um,
Horse Poop Simulator
yeah.
2019.
But yeah, it's definitely cynical, but I don't think it's as cynical as it could be, because they have deliberately undermined their ability to exploit the psychologically weak. The people who have an addictive personality and will get sucked into the gambling, they have deliberately undermined their ability to make money off of those people. So it's cynical, but it's not quite exploitative.
Yeah.
I'm just, if they put a casino in Red Dead, I'm never going to see my boss again.
There there's already the casino style games in there. Like you can go and play blackjack and things.
If they put it online where he can get his little number to go up, I'm never going to see him again.
You're going to have to keep a very close eye on the account.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to report his account for hacking or something. I'll install a mod kit in the PS4 for him so that he gets banned for hacking.
Oh, that could be fun.
These are all legitimate business strategies when it comes to saving a company. Don't judge.
It's oh dear. Yeah. So yeah, that was some minor news this week that I just thought was funny. Let's see. That's all I got for the dig throughs I found. Did y'all have anything you wanted to talk about?
Nothing beyond that particularly this week.
Thing a few people have been talking about is WoW Radio is coming back.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
I think you posted that in another channel somewhere.
Oh yeah, I posted the Reddit thing on it in the general chat, but I'd heard about it some days ago. But yeah, it seems that what happened is basically the people who a bunch of the people who originally got together and put Warcraft Radio together just ended up by chance working on something together, and basically had a nostalgia fest.
Yeah.
And decided that since WoW Classic was coming out, it would be a good time to try and relaunch WoW Radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Athelis, I think, was the original founder of WoW Radio.
Yes.
Yeah, he's the
And,
one who made the post.
Yeah, and he posted this up, and I think he said the archives for all the old shows will be on there.
Yep, they've got a website up where you can see that stuff. They've got a Twitter account. They've got a Discord that you can join and put up with Bazaleel again.
Is he in there?
Yes, he's like one of the most active people because he's always been like that. He
And
can't
before
stand everything not being about him.
Oh dear.
No.
But everybody's there. Like all the old people, Slanik and Dustin, Dunkirk, Farseer, Pride, all of those people.
A whole bunch of people I might have talked to tangentially on a forum at some point, but never actually interacted with. And before you ask, no, we were not part of WC Radio proper.
No.
For those that have been with us later, so we were not invited to this show, and that's just fine. This is for the people that were part of WoW Radio, and we have not been approached in any way.
No, we won't be. Because
won't.
the problem that I always had with WoW Radio is that, and this is going to sound like slander and sour grapes, but the feeling that I always got from them is that, and while they appeared open in practice, they were very insular. Like their in crowd was very in crowd, and you could not break in.
Well, that's why we
Period.
all went to VTW, because VTW was the people that were not part of that in crowd.
Yeah. Like I've already seen somebody on this, just for the record. And this is sort of detraction, but I've seen at least one person denounce Octale as an alt-right troll.
There's always one.
Yeah.
So that's fine if they want to have their thing. That's cool. We were never and ever a part of WoW Radio, so we don't have a place there, and we will not
I
be going
used to
to
listen
them.
to it. I used to listen to, or it would be more accurate to say that I listened to Octale and Hordak versus the World and Blue Please than the show in general. The shows in general, because there are a lot that I thought were a bit average, but
Yep. We have never denounced you, Octale. The only thing we've said bad is you shouldn't tell people to drive while they're drunk.
I still don't understand that. Like, of all the hot takes, why is it appropriate to make the hot take that gets people killed?
That was really bad. I'll even give you I've stolen your third world ball stick. Like, I run that one at least once every 3 months. That one's fine. It's just that don't tell people to drink and drive, dude.
Oh dear.
We still love you though.
So yeah, it's a good nostalgia fest. Like I lurked around WoW Radio for quite some time. Never really got involved in the community though, except for a handful of people.
I was a not even tertiary, peripheral member of their community for a while, and then
I posted once or twice.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I didn't become active until I decided one bright day, probably while I was drunk, to sit on the VTW Discord. Or not Discord, their vent server at the time, and just see who came in and have drunk conversations with them.
Yeah.
And then we got a show.
Yeah, that kind of happened.
There was like 3 or 4 years in between that point and getting the show, but that happened.
All
I
right.
think Octail got banned on Twitter.
Did he?
He might have.
I think.
Admittedly,
I can't
though,
remember. I'm not sure.
admittedly, the criteria for getting banned on Twitter these days is pretty low.
Yeah, you pretty much just have to be, human in the wrong place. Like,
You
there's
just
no.
need to disagree with the wrong person.
You just have to
Yeah.
exist, and somebody decides they don't like you.
Yeah.
But especially if you're born with the wrong skin color or something like that. That's also can count against you.
Yeah.
Oh, can I drop white racial slurs? Am I allowed to do that?
No.
Can I make jokes?
No. Racism is still racism.
Well, saltine crackers are very good, and I think you all should be should eat them with cheese.
Listen,
Okay.
new summer event will be up soon. Just hold on.
Oh, I
Change
can't
the
wait.
subject. Change the subject.
I can't wait.
Oh dear.
I can't do it next week, but the next week is when I'll be doing my rolls for it.
Yep. So it looks like it's going to be a fun event. I have absolutely no idea how it's supposed to work, other than there is race cars and shenanigans happens.
This describes minus the race cars every FGO event.
Yeah, usually it's there is X and shenanigans happens. Like we just went through there is Desert Island and shenanigans happen. Gouda Gouda is there is shenanigans and shenanigans happen.
Yeah, things are not normal. Like
No.
all the statesmen took it to a new level, though.
Yes. There is shouting.
The state of the nation and all of the statesmen is shenanigans.
Pretty much it's just shenanigans.
There's also North Dakota.
Yeah. There's nothing in North Dakota, let's just leave.
Oh dear.
It's fate.
We should probably wrap it up there.
Yep, it's just going to be a shorter one today.
Yeah, there's not much going on this week from what I can tell.
Nah.
Yeah, just a bunch of small stuff that really I just found digging through my sweep of the usual 3 sources.
Yeah. There's a lot of
So
summaries on the KickVic stuff if you, coming up now if you want to look, because there's something like 30 hours of dissertations to go through, so people are finally getting their summaries up for those.
Yeah, the Discord, the depositions, all those are up. You have the TCPAs finally filed 1 day before their deadline, which is just shenanigans. You have, but yeah, Nick wasn't here this week, so the commentary was short and was not very in depth, and he was not prepped for any of it because he was on vacation with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So we should get more of that next week, and hopefully somebody will be a turbo sped and I can make fun of him online.
It's almost guaranteed based on
yeah.
past observances. Observations, I should say.
Who was going to say
cannot
something
believe-
dumb?
Well, this week the only notable, absolutely hilarious bit was Shannon McCormick, and I tried to find the tweets, but I don't know how to Twitter before the show.
They're probably been
Just-
deleted by now.
Maybe going turbo sped on that umbrella guy. So poor Tug is just sitting here laughing at this guy, making fun of him. And if Shannon McCormick goes, "Oh, fight me IRL, I'll dox you,"
Yeah.
and he got doxed, and Tug's just kind of like, "Okay, I said it was going to happen."
He called that
Tried-
maybe, 6 months ago?
Like as soon as this stuff started, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to get doxed. It's
Yeah.
going to happen." MBD. And Shannon McCormick's just like, as soon as he realized Tug didn't care, he's just like, "Fight me IRL, bro." It's just like the dumbest internet tough guy act of all time from this dumpy voice actor from Rooster Teeth.
By the way, I'm
Calling-
6 years old again.
This 43-year-old man working voice acting at Rooster Teeth telling somebody on the internet to come fight him IRL.
Yeah, meet me behind the bike shed after school.
It's just so stupid. These are adults with jobs in the United States of America.
Oh dear.
How? How do you people function? Keep doing this, though. This is hilarious. I want more of this. This is great weekly entertainment. Please keep on being turbo speds.
All right. Oh, I think I may have just made a mistake by clicking on that. Never mind. I'm probably going to try and close out the show while doing Bowl of Embers. This could be interesting.
Oh, dear. So
Looks
okay.
like law Twitter is actually spurging out as we speak.
Oh, they're always having to spurge out. It just depends on. They have to spurge out on something interesting because they're always kind of like having a fit.
Well, the only reason I know is that Nick's commenting on it at present, so
Oh, Nick loves trolling law Twitter.
I just
Maybe-
cringe. Like I feel embarrassed by proxy anytime I see anything law Twitter says.
Oh, I don't
Well,
actually.
I
admit
wish that
ever
Nick
any
had
of
never.
those.
I wish Nick had never mentioned it because I would rather not know that it exists.
I think it's important to recognize that law Twitter is the potential of human stupid in this world. Like, I don't think we can get much dumber than law Twitter. We probably can, but I don't think we can go very far.
I don't think it's actually that they are remarkable examples of dumb so much as they are remarkable examples of a complete misapprehension of how clever they are.
I would just label that as dumb, but yeah.
No, it's not. It's not really dumb. It's not like book dumb, and it's not even necessarily street dumb. It's just delusion. Like they think that they are something that they are not. That is being profoundly incorrect rather than being having some mental incapacity.
I don't know. I think they got plenty of mental incapacities.
Yeah, I run into people who are dumber than this regularly. Like in terms of what their upper limit of potential is. The problem is that not that these people are conventionally dumb. The problem is that these people do not use their brains.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. It's just I shorthand all that for dumb. Just oh my goodness. Oh, but yeah, Kickback is always a source of entertainment if you want more stuff to laugh at. Please go for A and N in round 2, Ty. Come on, Mr. Beard.
Oh boy, that list of best and worst anime from A&N. Good gravy.
That was hilarious.
It's backwards. They put it backwards. The whole thing is inverted.
There's a hobby expo going on in Japan at the moment, showing all the new figures, and for some reason there is a new figure coming out of Caster of Nightless City.
No.
Like, who would buy that?
There are people that like her on her comments on the wiki, and those people are disgusting.
Just wait for the event, Ari. Wait for the event.
Yeah. Wow. People cleared out a bowl of embers really quick. Okay. So
First
there.
Nobody wants to hang around in Bowl of Embers.
Nobody does. It's too hot. So that was story mode Ifrit. You do that at level 20. What are you doing at level 20 in Barons?
Oh dear, oh dear. So yeah, folks, I think we're done for the week, so Fern can go or feel comfortable in his time getting ready for his job.
Hey, that'll be
I think
first.
we will go ahead. Yeah, I think we will go ahead and sign out. Ball is sending me messages. Oh, pictures.
No,
Memes.
It's not a
No,
picture, it's a
no, I'm not.
video.
I'm not watching that. It's not happening. No.
Oh,
So yeah,
dear.
email topic of the week. Pick one. Was any of the stuff we talked about? There you go.
Yeah, any of it.
There's a whole lot of little stuff. Yeah, you gonna buy the next Fire Emblem game? Why are you waiting on Three Houses? There you go. Three Houses done. Look, you should be worried.
It's like War School?
I feel like it doesn't even it's not even able to boast the aesthetic style of the previous one as much of
Yeah.
a disaster as that was. This one just looks kind of bland. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's just me. I like incredibly fruity outfits, but
I get that impression.
yeah. And somebody on FGO Discord pointed out that they reckon that one of the characters from the new game is a palette swap of Archer.
Which Archer?
Which are
Emiya?
When I say Archer, everybody knows that it means classic Archer.
Ah, right. Yeah.
Oh, Garcher. Okay, gotcha.
I'm so used to you being stuck in the Fate mindset. All right, let's get out of here then.
All right, folks. Closing comments before I send us out.
Nope.
All right.
What
I guess
even
we're
is
done,
time?
folks. Yep. We will see y'all next week with hopefully more full weeks and more news. Sayonara. Bye bye.